Okay, today I've got a useful little exercise for you if you're interested in soft rock, folk rock, any kind of piano-based contemporary rock. It looks quite difficult, but actually it's straightforward, and it's a really useful one because it covers one or two quite important skills. Okay, so I'll play it through, and when I've done that I'll talk about it in a little bit more detail. Here we go. So, as I say, it might look challenging, but actually it's fairly straightforward. Let's dig down into what we've got going on there. At bottom, there's a very straightforward chord sequence. E, B, C sharp minor, A. Okay, those are the root chords. E, B, C sharp minor, A. Now those are actually given a little bit more character, they're added to in various ways. For example, the first E we're playing, we're not playing that riff in the right hand, which I'll come to in a second, isn't based on a simple E triad. Instead we're playing an E9 chord. Okay, if you're not sure about ninth chords, I've got a video on them, I'll include a link to that. So that's an E9 with a suspended ninth note there. Okay, and then when we come to the second note, obviously we're keeping that kind of shape, if you notice. The right hand is staying the same, so we're going to a B chord with the same pattern. Okay, so the chord we're essentially creating there is B with a suspended fourth. Then it goes to C sharp, also with a suspended fourth, and a minor seventh, and then to A with a sixth and a ninth suspended. You don't need to know all the details of that, but just going through it in case you're interested in harmony. The fact is, harmonically it works, and you get a bit of harmonic interest and harmonic complexity from doing something really simple, just staying on one chord pattern in the right while changing your chords in the left. That's, if you're songwriting or improvising, that's always something worth having a go at. Okay, so we've got that very straightforward chord sequence with a bit of embellishment. We've got our right hand, which, as I said, I'll talk about in a second. In the left, we've got this pattern based, this rhythm based on threes. Okay. If you're a musician, at first you might hear that as a triplet. Okay, as 3 equal notes spread across 4 beats. Actually, it's not. It's 2 crotchets that are dotted, 2 dotted crotchets followed by a crotchet, so 2 dotted quarter notes followed by a quarter note. Okay, so in other words, the third note of each 3 is actually slightly shorter. Okay, and the second time through that goes down into octaves in the bass. You probably can't see my little pinky, but it's just an octave down from the E doing that. Okay, so if I play that second time through, just up here so you can see what's going on. Okay, and as you can see, we're doing a little bit of a run down the scale there, just to add a bit of interest. Okay, that technique of using 3 patterns, that kind of syncopated da 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 da, is quite common in piano rock, as is using straightforward triplets. If you listen to Ben Folds, he uses triplet runs quite a lot. If you think about a song like Zack and Sarah, diddle 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 diddle, they're really fast triplets, and it's a good way of. You can set that against a straight 4 beat if you're playing with a rhythm section. You know, that will set against a 4 beat. And it's a way of making the piano stand out, and it's a bit more interesting than playing a straight sort of 4 to the floor, you know, which is kind of dull for this style of music. And it also gives the piano a chance to kind of sing. It develops the kind of, as well as the rhythmic qualities of the piano, it lets it really, you know, the lyrical quality of it come out. You know, you can really give it some swell, give it some feeling. Okay, so that's the basics. Let's have a look in detail at how to play that right hand, and then we'll look at how to stick it all together. Okay, that right hand looks a little bit scary, but actually it's quite simple. We're just using 4 notes: E, F sharp, B, and the top E. Like I said, that's a 9th chord. And let's focus on these 3 for now. Just play. We'll add the top E in a second. At its most simple, we're playing something, you know, a very, very simple pattern. Okay, so repeated. Okay, so sit down, have a go at that. What actually happens in the riff is that every time we play a B, we hit the F sharp with it. Okay, use the pedal, we'll talk more about the pedal shortly. Use the pedal to stick it together. Okay? Again, just using those 3 notes. So play around with that. When you get confident with it, little tip here, try not to overanalyze what you're doing. When you hit it, stop thinking about it and just try and make it an instinctive movement. It's a little bit like brushing your teeth. Have you ever had that experience of brushing your teeth and suddenly you start thinking about the movement you're making and you like magically forget how to brush your teeth? Maybe that's just me. But it happens. So don't overanalyze the movement. Try and make it instinctive. Okay? My fingers are quite flat. If you've had classical lessons, you'll have been told to keep your fingers curved, but this is one of those situations where you can use quite flat fingers because you're going for quite a rhythmic effect. You're using the piano, I go on about this all the time, but you're using the piano as a percussion instrument. And the fact that you've got your pedal down helps you to do that. Top E, let's look at how we add that in. Okay. It's just a spring up there. Okay, quite simple. Again, try not to overanalyze it when you're doing it. Else you just, you know, I'm the same. If I try and think carefully about what I'm doing, it's actually quite hard to slow it down. You'll find it much easier to play quickly. So get it up to speed as quickly as you can, because then it kind of becomes mindless and your unconscious brain starts doing the work. And your unconscious brain is a much, much better pianist than your conscious brain. Okay, so try not to think about it, just let it roll. Listen to it, of course. Listen to the sound you're making, but that's all you really need to do. Okay, so now we know how to play the right hand pattern, and we've seen that not quite 3's pattern in the left. What can we do to stick them together? Well, you might find the first time you try putting them together, it's kind of a little bit difficult. The thing to do is really make sure you know the pattern in the right. And what you can do as you begin to introduce the left hand is just play simple chords rather than the rhythmic pattern. And then as you get more confident, you can and build it in. One thing I would say at this stage is it's kind of tempting to play it all loud. Try and build a little bit of dynamic variation. Piano is an incredibly expressive instrument, and it makes sense to build in a bit of expression with your louds and softs. So you try starting soft and building loud like I did there. It's very, very tempting, especially when you get down here to those octaves in the bass, to really thump them out. And that can feel really satisfying, but it's very easy, especially if you're on a powerful piano, to drown out the detail, the interest of what's going on up here with too much down there. So get it out of your system while you're practicing, and if you ever perform this style, you know, just go a little bit easy on the left. Yeah. Also, you need to use the pedal. Okay, if you don't use the pedal, you end up with another kind of interesting effect, I suppose. Okay, but it's a little bit spiky. If you're after that really rolling, flowing, rumbling sound, you need to use the pedal. Probably, but not always, on each chord. Okay, so I would do something like this: pedal, and 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 pedal. Okay. I held off on the pedal a little bit as I was coming down that run because it's dead easy to make it muddy. Okay, you'll find that varies depending on the instrument you play. You can get away with quite heavy pedalling on a digital piano because most digital pianos don't have sympathetic resonance. You don't get strings that are open being, you know, re-vibrated by impact further down or further up the keyboard. On a real piano, especially if it's a big piano with big strings, or especially if it's a little bit out of tune, you know, that can cause problems. You will find that begins to turn into a bit of a mush, a bit of a sort of, you know, a bit of a sort of formless musical sludge. So just be a little bit careful about your pedal, and again, trust your ears. When you're playing the piano, it's really easy. But because it's such a physical process, you don't have to listen to yourself. You don't have to. You're not like a violinist or a trumpeter. You're not forming the note yourself. So it's very easy to concentrate on what your fingers are doing and not listen. Okay. If you listen to yourself, you'll notice little problems like that. That sounds like a ridiculous thing to say. How could you not listen to yourself when you're playing the piano? But lots of people don't. So there we go. Okay. Moving on from there, what do you do with this exercise once you can play it? Well, you can use that particular style if you're playing in a band. If you're writing songs, you know, it's a really good little comp to accompany yourself. You vary the chord sequence. If you want to extend the exercise a bit, sticking with the same chord sequence, then, you know, kind of the world is your oyster really, and this is where the real value of the exercise comes in. Just experiment with different chord shapes. You know, what sounds can you create? You could, for example, try moving up an inversion. So instead of playing that, build the initial lick around a shape like that. Okay, try slowing it down. Playing around. Okay, loads of different things you can do. I mean, it's a bit of a cliche, but the whole, you know, varying a chord between its straightforward triad and its ninth, sometimes there's a suspended fourth, is a real kind of cliche of rock piano, but it's one worth playing around with. Dropping an A chord every now and then. Loads of different things you can do. So, as I say, don't kind of treat it as if it's set in stone. You might find you're developing your own exercise and your own improvisations out of this that sound completely different. If so, that's great. Post a video of them. You know, shoot them and stick it as a video reply in the comment thread on YouTube. That would be awesome. I love it when people do stuff like that. So there we go. Quite a useful little exercise. I'm going to post some more on rock piano because looking at the video statistics, a lot of people are really interested in it, which is cool. I will also do stuff on rock and roll piano, more sort of, you know, which people are also interested in, but it's actually a very different style. It's much more similar to blues, okay, whereas the stuff we're doing here almost has its kind of roots in classical music. Anyway, I'm getting off into a lecture about music history and music theory now, which I don't want to do. So there we go. Any questions, any comments, stick them in the comment thread and I'll more than happily come back to you. Also, don't forget to check out my book, How to Really Play the Piano, the stuff your teacher never taught you. If the stuff about chords was confusing you, especially, there's a big section in here about understanding harmony, which you will find useful for stuff like that. Okay, anyway, that's enough from me. Like I said, questions or comments, bung them in the thread and I will be absolutely delighted to answer them if I can. Okay, there we go.